They met in a video game cafe. But soon after pushing him away, this young woman would eventually find herself to be the victim of an angry, obsessive stalker. And a single image that she posted long ago on social media may just have been that fatal mistake that ended the lives of her entire family. My name is Adrian, and welcome back to another video today by Coffeehouse Crime. Have you ever met anyone on the internet? Nowadays, most of us have. But what do you do when that person begins to stalk and harass you? How do you shake them off? In today's video, we'll be looking at the case of Kim Tae-Hyun, a man who could not take no for an answer. The details to this case are crazy, folks, so please take note. And as always, just to let you know that I post both solved and unsolved cases here on a weekly basis, so if true crime is your kind of thing, please consider subscribing to Coffeehouse Crime. So without further ado, pull up a seat, grab a coffee and sit back. This is the case of Kim Tae-Hyun. Welcome to South Korea. Not to be confused with its northern counterparts, South Korea is the smaller half of the Korean peninsula, located in East Asia. With a population of roughly 54 million inhabitants, around half of those live in the country's capital, Seoul. Bearing an impressive total of 12 World Heritage Sites, and home to a variety of incredible dishes like bulgogi and samgyeopsal, South Korea is also considered to be one of the most technologically advanced and digitally connected countries in the world. And fun fact, but did you know that South Korea also has the highest density of robots on the planet? There is a lot to be fascinated about when it comes to this country. Even for gamers, the culture here is very different. While the Western world is almost entirely used to gaming in their own homes, South Korea does it very differently, in the form of what is called PC bungs. PC bungs are cafes filled with high-end computers, all of which are equipped with extremely fast internet speeds, and almost every video game that you can think of. Catering to gamers of the day and of the night, most run 24/7, and offer a wide variety of food and drink, all at the cost of only 1,000 South Korean won per hour, the equivalent of 86 cents. If you're a gamer and have ever thought about what it would be like to LAN party almost every day, this would be it. Computer games, check. A local community, check. Food on demand, check. PC bungs have it all. And with South Korea allegedly being one of the safest countries in the world, you can feel safe about sticking around for those late night games too. And speaking of PC bungs, today's case begins in one. We're travelling to Jeongye-dong, located in Nowon-gu, northeast from the heart of the capital, Seoul. It is the final month of 2020, and a young woman was up to her usual form of entertainment, playing games down at a local PC bung. The law in South Korea is very different to what you'd find in Western countries like the United States and the United Kingdom. And one of those differences is that they very rarely reveal the names of their victims to a crime. I won't lie, that kind of makes this case a little bit harder to cover. So in this video we'll be referring to the victim's name as Ari. Ari was 25 years old at the time, and she often frequented a local PC bung which was just a few minutes walk from her home in Jeongye-dong. She'd been visiting this PC bung for several years at this point, and in that time had made loads of friends, both locally and online, all of which she'd play games with almost every night. And one of those games that Ari played was called League of Legends. The online MOBA, which is also an extremely popular game in the Western world, is even more prominent in South Korea. And for Ari, that was no different. It was around Christmas time of 2020 that Ari met up with a small group of friends. While she knew most of them already, one or two of them were new to the group. But she had been playing League of Legends with them for a while now, and had even seen them in the local PC bungs before. So why not meet up with them for food and a couple drinks? One of the new faces to her group was a young man who went by the name of Kim Tae-Hyun. Kim, who was born in 1996, was just 1 year younger than Ari, aged 24. He was, from the outside, a very average man. From almost every visible aspect of his life, he wasn't too shabby, but he was nothing special either. As the year closed and moved on into the year 2021, both Ari and Kim would continue seeing each other amongst friends on a couple more occasions. And amongst these encounters, Kim began to develop feelings towards Ari. However, these feelings were not mutual. Ari didn't feel the same way about Kim. In fact, he kind of gave her the creeps, a feeling that, amongst her rejection, would spark an argument between the two. Now, in most of these situations, you would expect both members of the awkward encounter to just go on with their own separate lives. But Kim had a very hard time accepting the fact that Ari just did not like him back. But he wasn't just upset, he was actually angry at Ari for her decision. And very quickly those emotions of love and interest turned into hate and disgust. Needless to say, Ari stopped meeting up with her friends when Kim was also expected to be there. And amongst the awkwardness, there was now somewhat of a feud between her and Kim. Kim began to harass her over games and social media, and eventually she made the decision to block him everywhere. This included removing him from her profile in League of Legends. But as time went on, Kim's emotions did not settle. In fact, they would only get worse. He would use local payphones to call her mobile, leave anonymous voice messages, and routinely stalk her at her local PC bung. And eventually she would be forced to abandon her old phone number, replacing it with a new one just so that Kim couldn't harass her. But it's not so easy with social media. If he was blocked, he could just create a new profile to keep his eyes on her life. The change in phone number was only a small intermission. As soon enough, he managed to find it and continue on with his barrage of phone calls, text messages, voicemails, and stalking. And without any shadow of a doubt, Ari had found herself to be a victim, a target, to Kim's newfound unhealthy obsession. Kim Tae-Hyun was, from the outside, a very average man to Korean society. Although there were some abnormalities to his life, none of them were obvious, posing no red flags to anyone that was around him. He was very heavily into his gaming, but that's very normal in South Korea, so nothing unusual there. A few years prior, at the age of 19, Kim left college to work in a local PC bung. The work was nothing too complicated. Troubleshooting computers, assisting in orders, general kind of service. But the following year, in 2016, Kim was automatically enrolled into the Korean military for his mandatory 2 years of service. Like several other countries across the globe, South Korea automatically enlists all men between the ages of 18 to 28. The intention to this is to teach discipline while simultaneously helping the nation with its various needs. 2 years on, Kim Tae-Hyun would return to his home district of Gangnam, and he would also return to his former place of work. And although the PC bung had no open vacancies, he remained a good friend to the establishment's owner. By now, Kim was living on his own. He lived in the basement of a complex, and to get by financially, he became a contractor, preferring to work on various small jobs instead of enrolling into full-time work. But it was during this time that money started to mysteriously disappear from the PC bung's cash registers, and upon investigation, the owner would realise through CCTV that the thief was none other than Kim Tae-Hyun. No charges were pressed, but instead the owner banned Kim from ever setting foot in his PC bung again. And things would continue to go south for Kim Tae-Hyun. He was becoming somewhat of a loner, and most of his friends attended that PC bung. But once he was banned, rumours started circulating that he was somewhat of a violent man, and often harassed other employees while he worked there. An accusation that would soon perpetuate. In June of 2019, Kim Tae-Hyun was fined over 300,000 won or $250 for continuously harassing another person over social media. Who it was, again we do not know, but it became serious enough for them to alert the police. Kim's crimes would only become more severe as time moved on. In summer of 2019, he allegedly entered a woman's public toilets for sexual purposes, landing him a fine of 2 million won or $1,700. And he was again fined a further 2 million won for sending recordings of him moaning into the microphone to a local school girl. By now, Kim Tae-Hyun had run into the law 3 times, each one becoming more aggressive by nature, more severe by action, and more daring by personality. In what was once a man who had no obvious problematic signs, we now had a man who stole money, was violent to friends, harassed women, and even went into public toilets in search for sex. Kim Tae-Hyun had well and truly become unhinged, and although his crimes were worsening by the month, no one around him knew about it. He was a ticking time bomb hidden in plain sight. And then, he would meet Ari. Following his encounter and then rejection from Ari, Kim's harassment wasn't getting him anywhere. And he wasn't going to quit either. Deceptively, he created a new account on League of Legends, and anonymously he befriended Ari, pretending to be an entirely different person. From here, he started playing video games with her and watched her online activity very closely, analysing her schedule to know when she worked, slept, and gamed. And although Ari had no idea that the gamer she was playing with was actually Kim, she had also made one fatal mistake in her past. She had previously posted an image of an item that was delivered to a address on social media. And while it wasn't the focus or intention of the image, there in the background was the brown packaging box that it had arrived in. And on the packaging was Ari's address. While obsessively stalking Ari, he had managed to find out where exactly she had lived, and now with the games he was playing with her, he'd also managed to find out her schedule, when she would be in and when she'd be out the house. You know where this is going. We're moving forward to the 23rd of March 2021. It was a Sunday, and in the early morning, Kim Tae-Hyun started his day by making several searches online on his phone. Number 1. Emergency places to hide. Number 2. How to kill a person quickly. And number 3. Location of Mapo Bridge, a bridge famously known for taking your own life in South Korea. He then collected a white rucksack from his wardrobe, packed it with an extra set of clothes, blue tape, coated gloves, and finally, loaded it with several weapons. Dressing himself head to toe in black clothing, he then set out to Jongye-dong. At 5:13 PM, surveillance cameras captured Kim walking into Ari's local PC bung. There was no real reason he had to select this one. After all, he had just travelled over 10 miles to get here, passing several others in the process. But whatever his main incentive was, he had no luck in the main rooms, and only 7 minutes later, he left. At 5:22 PM, cameras once again captured Kim. This time it was in the smoking area. He seemed to be prowling the outer premises, looking for something or someone. However, it seems as if whatever he was looking for was not there, as just 5 minutes later, he left the area entirely. Instead, he made his way to a local supermarket where he then bought another undisclosed weapon, and after that, he travelled to the address that he found on Ari's social media. At 5:35 PM that evening, Kim fooled his way past building security by posing as a delivery driver, and once inside, he made his way to Ari's apartment, knocked on the door, and waited. A voice answered back, asking the so-called delivery driver to leave the package at the front door. Kim placed the package down before pretending to leave, silently waiting to the side of the entrance. 5 minutes passed until finally it opened, and as it did, Kim intercepted. Two bright eyes darted up to meet Kim as he pushed his foot into the doorway. But it wasn't Ari. It was her younger 22-year-old sister. Kim barraged his way in, slammed the door shut, and tragically stabbed Ari's sister to death. Daylight faded, and as the evening slowly crept into the night, Kim stayed in the property along Ari's sister's body, which was lifeless on the floor. The apartment remained silent. Nothing but chatter and noise could be heard from neighbours all around, completely unaware of the unfolding tragedy. But at 10:31 PM, that silence was shattered as the front door's lock was engaged. It was Ari's mother, and as she entered the property, Kim took her by surprise. But resistance was futile, as just like her youngest daughter, she was abruptly taken out by Kim, proceeding his death toll to 2 victims. Just 1 hour later, Ari herself would return to the property, and upon finding her sister and her mother dead on the floor, Kim would reveal himself inside the apartment, before violently killing her too. Kim would continue to spend an entire 3 days in Ari's apartment along 3 dead bodies, all in the meantime eating and drinking their food and alcohol, During this time, he would also self-harm, allegedly in an attempt to take his own life. He, however, would fail in these attempts and carry on eating instead. 3 days after his brutal stabbings, police would arrive at Ari's apartment. Her friends, who were worried over her sudden disappearance, called in to authorities to ask for a welfare check. They were hoping she was just busy, and their greatest worries seemed illogical anyway. But nevertheless, that small chance was significant enough to sound the alarm. No one would have expected 3 dead bodies. Yet on March the 26th, 2021, that is exactly what they discovered. The killer himself still living among them. Police were shocked, as were the local neighbours, family and friends. Along with the grieving that they were now set to face, was the anger at how someone could do such a thing to an entire family. Following the extent of his injuries, Kim was admitted to hospital. And although they were concerning, his injuries were not severe, as just 1 week later he was discharged and arrested immediately after. It was during this time that police raided Kim Tae-Hyun's basement property, and what they found there was equally disturbing. His home was in disarray. Broken wardrobes and furniture littered the room, and documents such as his ID and resume was found in the bin, but there was no real effort to conceal or hide both those things. Following his conviction, Kim Tae-Hyun made an official public apology while live on state media, stating that he felt guilty just by breathing air ever since his actions. But the police did not seem interested in his regrets, as just after his apology, he was taken down to Seoul's prosecutor's office and charged for 5 offences, including murder, theft, intrusion of housing, misdemeanour, and infringement of information and communications networks. With Kim Tae-Hyun already admitting the murder of Ari, her sister, and her mother, it's more than likely that he will eventually be found guilty on all charges. And with South Korea still accepting the death penalty in rare circumstances, Kim may be facing death rather than life imprisonment. He did, however, claim that killing Ari's sister and mother were both an accident. I don't see how stabbing 2 people in the neck can ever be considered a mistake, but there you go. Kim is also very unlikely to be successful with any plea of insanity, as his attempts to delete messages shortly after the crime verifies that he knew what he did was morally wrong. In his first trial, which was in June of 2021, Kim accepted all 5 charges. When exactly he will be sentenced is not yet clear. But the nation watches on, waiting to see how severe his punishment will be for a crime so terrible. Only weeks after the murders made by Kim Tae-Hyun, and a staggering 22 years since the conversation for such actions began, South Korean officials finally advanced for stiffer penalties related to stalking. Until recently, stalking was viewed as a minor misdemeanor in South Korea. But with a unanimous bill of 235 votes in favour to 0 not in favour, this view is set to change later this year in October. Where stalkers would previously face a maximum of 29 days in jail and a fine of up to 100,000 won or $86, they may now see up to 5 years behind bars and fines up to 50 million won, or $43,000. However, reinforcing this law will not solve Korea's problem with stalkers. What is arguably more important than punishment, which often happens all too late for the victims, is preventing it from happening in the first place. And while this may be a good step in the right direction, it unfortunately has come all too late for not just 1, but 3 victims to Kim Tae-Hyun. As a lot of you will know by now, I like to end these videos in a small tribute to the victims. But with South Korean law concealing the identity of these victims, it makes it almost impossible to do such a thing. What I will say is that Kim's victim, who I named as Ari, did everything she could to break away from the clutches of this dangerous, obsessive man. Despite this, she was never able to fully get away. It's a perfect example of stalking, something that happens not just in South Korea, but all over the world. And this new internet era brings a whole new level to this type of crime. Ari's fatal mistake was in leaving her address on an image on social media, something that contributed towards her death. The consequences won't necessarily be as severe for anyone else watching this, but my lesson learned today is to be very careful where you leave your address online. That's my echo from this video anyway. Thank you so much for watching another video today by Coffeehouse Crime. If you found this video interesting, or if you learned something new today, then please remember to like the video and subscribe. And thank you to everyone for being patient with me as I move house and studio. I should be back to my normal Monday routine starting next week. I've got many exciting plans to share with you in the future. That is all I have for today, folks, so thank you again for watching. And you know it by now, I'll be right here behind this camera waiting for you in the next one. Until Monday rolls around, however, look after each other. Goodbye.